we have to talk about the most important religious debate currently happening in America. I am, of course, talking about whether it's harder to be a Christian or a furry. Because apparently, a handful of conservative Christian furries, yeah, you heard me, are worried they'll be punished for being Christian. If you have no clue what I'm talking about here, I will give you a second to Google furries, and I'll be here when you return. Excellent. Okay, so a reporter named Riley Farrell recently wrote for Religion News Service about the Christian Furry Fellowship. Their slogan is bringing the good news to the furry fandom about the two things that members feel obligated to hide from certain people in their lives: their faith and their fursonas. And let's get this out of the way. While I'm not a furry myself, I get that other people are. And okay, doesn't affect me. I'm not mocking it. I don't particularly care. I understand that it's not for everybody and it's not a sexual thing or a kink or anything like that. They're not trying to hurt anybody. We are all good. But I do have thoughts about Christian furries, because this is a subculture that researchers at Fur Science, which is real, say is more atheist and agnostic than Christian. And they're very welcoming to and accepting of LGBTQ people. It is an inclusive community. But what happens when you're a conservative Christ follower who believes most of the furries you hang out with are hellbound for any number of different reasons? The answer is that the conservative Christians don't feel like they belong. Christians in the furry community are cautious about who knows about both their furry and faithful selves. Christian furries interviewed for this story, including leaders of the group that calls itself the Christian Furry Fellowship, asked to be anonymous, fearing doxing from within the largely secular furry community for their Christian identity, and ostracization from their professional lives for their furry hobby. "My furry friendships are a blessing," said one CFF organizer with a red fox fursona who asked to be called F. "And for that reason, I'm sad to see so much grief within the fandom that could be helped by the knowledge of the Lord." F that. I don't need to spare a thought for the Christian furries who think their fellow furries need more Jesus in their lives. I'm having a hard time feeling sympathy for the Christians whose only goal here is to infest a community whose members already have to avoid the wrath of Christians in every other aspect of their lives. The type of people who often adopt fursonas and identify as LGBTQ have to deal with legal, personal, and moral attacks from Christians who wield incredible power. Yet these conservative Christian furries, who already have the kind of privilege the rest of us can only dream of, want to come into this community in order to evangelize. And they have the audacity to whine about how hard things are for them? Please. The furries won't dox them for being Christian. They respect privacy. But you can bet conservative Christians will keep spreading lies about the sort of people who belong to these groups. They already do, and not just about gay or trans people. Just look up Republicans and furry panic, and you will find examples of them spreading lies. Maybe these Christians ought to ask themselves why they're so unwelcome in this subculture. This isn't just theoretical either. Even though the Christian Furry Fellowship doesn't force members to adopt any anti-LGBTQ faith statement, it is certainly implicit in their beliefs. Like many conservative Christians, its members believe that engaging in same-sex sexual relationships is wrong. Having homosexual feelings alone is not. Furries who disagree with this stance can still join, S said, as long as they abide by the group's rules. Great. They love gay people, as long as those gay people never do anything gay. It's the same policy many evangelical churches have adopted in order to distance themselves from anti-LGBTQ extremists, even though it's hardly any better. LGBTQ people and their allies know exactly where those church members stand. One of the goals of CFF is to, quote, present a different face of their faith to their fellow furries. But when they hold bigoted beliefs, how do they expect to make inroads? Furries may accept these Christians, but they do so in spite of their beliefs, not because of them. In a way, these Christians are like the log cabin Republicans, who are fully convinced they are liberalizing the Republican Party on the issue of LGBTQ rights, only to realize, long after everyone else, that they're nothing but a joke to the very people they've been trying to change. You know, the Republicans love having diversity in their tent, but have no intention of actually letting them shape policy. In this case, the Christians are not jokes. They are just threats. Instead of trying to make the furry community more accepting of conservative Christianity, the Christians should spend their time making evangelical churches more inclusive on matters of sexual orientation and gender identity and, I guess, animal rights. I doubt it'll work, but at least the furries will be left alone.